Ludwig van Beethoven is one of the most famous classical composers and musicians of all time. However, despite his nearly unparalleled musical talents, he faced a huge problem: impending deafness. Before we learn more about Beethoven's deafness, remember to hit subscribe and to turn on notifications to be updated when a new video is posted. Beethoven was born into a musical family in 1770 in Bonn, Germany. He began studying music from a young age, becoming an excellent pianist and violinist by his early teens. He also began to publish compositions as early as age 12. He relocated to Vienna, Austria at age 17, where he studied with prominent musicians Joseph Haydn and Antonio Salieri. By his early 20s, he had already composed major works, such as his Pathétique piano sonata and his first symphony. It was clear he was set to become a star. But trouble began to brew for Beethoven around 1796, when he started to notice problems with his hearing. Initially, it was not a huge point of concern. The composer had a number of health problems dating back to childhood, including gastrointestinal issues that caused him frequent discomfort. He was no stranger to having ailments. However, the hearing problems did not seem to improve. He noticed a worsening ringing in his ears, and he began to have trouble hearing quiet conversations and high musical pitches. Beethoven felt he had to keep his failing hearing a secret. He feared that his career might be ruined because of it. He confided only in a few very close friends and family members. He continued to compose and perform, but he became increasingly reclusive. He could not adequately converse with others and started to feel quite depressed. In 1802, Beethoven penned a letter to his brothers, now known as the Heiligenstadt Testament. In this letter, he expressed his deep frustration and despair over his worsening hearing. He felt robbed of one of his greatest joys in life, the ability to hear music. He even wrote that he seriously contemplated suicide as an escape from his bleak reality. In the end, however, he came to the conclusion that he wanted to live and continue making art. This emotional letter displays his true love for music and an astonishing triumph over adversity. Beethoven sought the help of numerous doctors over the course of his life. Unfortunately, none of them were able to offer him any substantial help. Medical technology was not advanced enough at this point to correct hearing. The doctors also couldn't figure out what the cause of the deafness was. Multiple theories emerged. Some doctors believed it was a genetic disorder. Others claimed it was caused by an inflammatory disease. And some thought it was related to the heart problems that Beethoven also began to experience. They attempted to treat his hearing with a variety of methods, from herbal remedies to devices such as the ear trumpet to leeches, but to no avail. Yet Beethoven was determined to continue his work as a musician. He learned certain methods of composing and communicating despite his hearing loss. He carried a notebook around with him, which he would use to write down his thoughts in lieu of speech. He also would feel the vibrations of the piano through a rod to help him understand what was happening in the music despite not being able to hear it. Before we delve further into Beethoven's journey, take a moment to hit the like button and subscribe to our channel to watch more videos about some of classical music's greatest composers. By his mid-40s, Beethoven had gone completely deaf. At this point, it was completely impossible for him to hide it from his peers. There are stories of concerts Beethoven was conducting where he continued to conduct after the music had stopped because he couldn't hear when the music was over. Playing in rehearsals and concerts was also challenging because he had difficulty staying in time. To make things worse, he hated that he was not able to hear people speak and had to communicate solely through writing. Despite the struggles in his performing career and social life, Beethoven produced some of his most innovative works later in life after he could no longer hear a sound. No one really knows how much of his innovation in terms of harmony was a direct result of his hearing loss. Was he simply making mistakes when composing that later musicians took as signs of artistic genius? Most scholars don't think so. Beethoven increasingly had to rely on his inner ear and imagination, which may have allowed him to think more outside the box. Additionally, his social isolation may have led him to care less about the opinions of others, spurring him to break convention more easily. He also wouldn't have been able to hear the music other composers were coming up with, so he was composing music that was completely free of outside influence. Whatever the reason, we as a society are indebted to Beethoven's perseverance in his music career and life. If he had not continued to compose and perform after going deaf, we would be without iconic gems such as his Ninth Symphony, Missa Solemnis, and the late string quartets. After Beethoven died in 1827, an autopsy was performed on his body. Though the autopsy process at the time was more rudimentary than it is today, doctors discovered that there was damage to his aural nerves and arteries. He also had bone abnormalities in his skull, causing his bones to thicken and overgrow. Most scholars believe today that the cause of Beethoven's deafness was otosclerosis. This condition results in abnormal growth in the middle ear that ultimately leads to deafness. Doctors would likely not have been able to diagnose this issue during Beethoven's lifetime. However, we will never really know the truth about Beethoven's deafness. It's very possible a number of other factors contributed to his hearing loss, including his other health problems or overexposure to loud noise. Though his deafness was something that plagued Beethoven's life, it also made him the remarkable man he was. We'll never know if he still would have produced his monumental later life works had he not gone deaf. And so all we can do is simply applaud his bravery, perseverance, and genius. Thanks for watching my video. If you enjoyed it and want to see more content like it, please hit like and subscribe. See you next time.